Endor was, at first glance, an unremarkable world at the edge of the galaxy. A distant, forested moon orbiting its massive gas giant, far beyond the major centers of civilization. Yet, beneath its quiet appearance lay a world shaped by isolation, accident, and an extraordinary diversity of life. Vast forests stretched across its temperate surface, broken by mountains, savannas, deserts, lakes, rivers, and small seas, while generations of shipwrecks had left behind scattered communities of sentient beings far from their original homes. To those who came to know it, Endor was more than a remote wilderness. It was a world where the unexpected had a habit of taking root. And eventually, this secluded moon would become the unlikely stage upon which the fate of the galaxy itself was decided.
You are listening to the Star Lores Podcast.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Are you stuck-up, half-witted, scruffy-looking nerf herder?
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
I got a bad feeling about this.
Astronomy!
Endor 9, also known as the Forest Moon, Tana 9, and the Sanctuary Moon, was a small forested moon orbiting the gas giant planet of Endor, and the farthest moon from it. An enchanted world of temperate forests, mountains, deserts, savannas, lakes, rivers, and small seas, Endor was a remarkably diverse environment, despite its relatively remote position. Its breathable atmosphere and gravity of only 85% of standard made it habitable for a wide variety of life. Most notably, Endor was a native home of the Ewoks, and would eventually become the site of the Battle of Endor, a confrontation that resulted in the downfall of the Empire and the first death of Darth Sidious. Yet, for all the significance it would eventually acquire, Endor was, for much of its history, a relatively quiet planetoid. Its remoteness kept it distant from the major events of the galaxy, located in the Outer Rim. That isolation, however, did not make Endor devoid of life. The moon supported a vast number of sentient species, ranging from baseline to exotic. Much of this unusual diversity was attributed to the remarkably large number of shipwrecks Endor experienced over the course of its history. In this respect, Endor was sometimes compared to a desert island in space, a remote world where the survivors of distant journeys could find themselves stranded, and where desperate peoples and cultures could take root to form the civilizations they had once known.
Topography!
Goopa noopa.
Beneath Endor's verdant surface, the moon was geologically alive. Its mantle consisted largely of diorite and feldspar. But despite its seemingly tranquil appearance, Endor remained volcanically active planetoid, with several known hotspots scattered across its interior. Much of the surface was dominated by massive, tightly knit pine and redwood forests, giving rise to Endor's title as the Forest Moon. Yet, the forests were only one part of its landscape. Vast dry deserts and open grassy plains stretched between secluded lakes and small oceans, while mountain ranges broke up the otherwise expansive wilderness. The moon's low axial tilt and regular orbit around its gas giant, Primary, helped maintain a comfortable and predictable climate. Temperate and mild, Endor's environment was further moderated by polar caps that helped regulate sea levels. The stability of this environment allowed Endor's flora to flourish. Campylactis trees and other enormous plant species thrived across the moon, providing an abundant source of vegetation and fruit, including the distinctive grava berries. Together, Endor's varied terrain, mild climate, and abundant plant life created an unusually hospitable world, one whose dense forest and secluded wilderness could conceal entire communities from the wider galaxy. Endor was the second moon of the gas giant it orbited, and its position within the system helped define the rhythms of the world below. Despite its geological activity, Endor remained a remarkable habitable moon, a place of towering forests, open plains, volcanic hotspots, and quiet waters, all existing together beneath the shadow of its enormous planetary primary.
Geography.
Manatuto. Michi.
Endor's inhabitants established settlements throughout the moon's varied landscape, adapting their communities to the dense forests, open plains, and waterways that surrounded them. Among the most numerous were the Ewoks, whose villages were often built directly into the enormous trees of the forest moon. Their settlements ranged from small, isolated communities to larger villages with complex social structures. Bright Tree Village was perhaps the best known of these settlements. Located in the canopy of the Happy Grove, the village stood approximately 50 meters above the forest floor. Most of its huts clung to the sides of individual trees, while the homes of important elders, including Chief Chirpa, were carved directly into the trunks themselves. The ancient conifers were remarkably tolerant of the heat produced by fireplaces, allowing the Ewoks to maintain fires within their elevated homes without damaging the trees. Not every home was built among the branches, though. Some structures stood at ground level, including the residence of the Gorax family. The village itself was home to approximately 200 Ewoks, with its layout reflecting the community's social structure. The huts of the chief and other elders occupied the center alongside the place of sickness, and an open platform used for public gatherings. Families and unmarried females lived in clusters of huts surrounding this central area, while unmarried males and sentries occupied more distant dwellings below the main village. Above them, lookout huts were positioned higher in the canopy, allowing Ewok sentries to watch for roaming Goraxes. Higher still were launching sites used by the Ewoks' hang gliders, giving the village a vertical structure that extended from the forest floor deep into the canopy. Bright Tree Village was not the only Ewok settlement to make use of Endor's natural environment. Ewoks also constructed still-to villages over bodies of water, including settlements along places such as Lake Sui. Their ability to build in the canopy, on the ground, or over water demonstrated how readily Ewok communities adapted their homes to the diverse environments of the forest moon. Other villages had considerably darker reputations. Hanging Moth's village was an isolated settlement inhabited by cruel and vicious Ewoks, whose inhabitants were known to torture creatures they captured. Far to the south, Red Bush Grove was once an Ewok village located several days' travel from Bright Tree Village. Its history ended in tragedy when a lightning storm ignited a devastating fire that destroyed the entire settlement, sometime before the Battle of Endor. Every inhabitant was killed except for Leektar and Kuolkiich, leaving the village itself in ruins. The Ewoks were not the only inhabitants to establish permanent structures on Endor. Other peoples arriving on the moon sometimes brought very different traditions of settlement with them. When the Sanyassan Marauders crash-landed on Endor in 100 BBY, they subdued portions of the Endorian plains and established their own domain over the Dragon's Pelt Savanna. At the base of the mountain chain known as the Dragon's Spine, they constructed an enormous, gloomy, and untidy castle that became both their barracks and the home of their leaders, the self-proclaimed King Terak and the Force-witch Charal. The Marauders' fortress was built for security rather than beauty. Its square walls were constructed from stone quarried from the mines in the foothills of the Dragon's Spine, with enormous blocks hauled into place by blurgs, the Marauders' beasts of burden. The finished structure was square and clumsy, lacking any particular finesse, but its thick walls and sturdy construction made it a formidable stronghold, in contrast to the Ewok settlements, which seemed to grow naturally from Endor's forests and waterways. The Marauders' castle imposed itself upon the landscape.
Ecology.
Dimmi a wonder.
Endor's forests were not empty wilderness. They were home to a remarkable variety of life, most famously the Ewoks, whose role in the Battle of Endor would ultimately make them known across the galaxy for helping defeat the Empire. Ewoks were the dominant sentient species on the world, most numerous, composing 95% of its estimated 30 million inhabitants. Beyond these furry ursine creatures, there were other sentient species that existed on the world who had developed their own cultures and societies. Sharing Endor were the tall, timid Yuzums, the fairy-like Wisties, and the amphibious Gorfs, and the mischievous and treacherous Duloks, genetic cousins of the Ewoks. Beyond these familiar inhabitants, Endor's wilderness was also home to stranger beings and entities whose existence seemed almost inseparable from the moon's ancient forests. Among them were Mount Sorrow, the Sun King, the sorceress Leaf Queen, the Flower Queen, and the mighty Snow King. Whether encountered as natural wonders, mysterious powers, or living beings, they added another layer to a world already distinguished by its unusual diversity. The moon's ecosystem extended beyond fully sentient life. Several semi-sentient species were indigenous to Endor, including the predatory grass trekkers and plant-like beings known as Fs, more commonly called dandelion warriors. The Gorax, although not native to Endor, had also established itself within the moon's wilderness, becoming another formidable presence among its forests and secluded regions. Yet Endor's population was not shaped solely by what evolved there. Over generations, shipwrecked survivors from across the galaxy had become stranded on the forest moon, and their descendants established themselves among its native peoples. As a result, Endor's sentient population became an unusual mixture of native species, ancient and mysterious beings, and people whose ancestors had arrived there by accident. The forest moon was therefore not simply a world inhabited by its own native life, but a place where the remnants of countless journeys had over time become part of Endor itself.
Flora!
Endor supported a diverse range of plant life, much of which played an important role in the daily, cultural, and spiritual lives of its inhabitants. Some plants possessed unusual properties, such as the damsel flower, whose orange petals concealed pollen capable of shrinking victims to the size of insects. In Ewoks, however, the effect was more severe, causing their size to continually decrease, a consequence that the fleabogs failed to consider when they used the flower on Princess Gnisa. Other plants served more practical purposes. The fuzzy nettle was valued for its medicinal properties, while the juba produced small juba nuts, considered delicacies by the Ewoks. The gemwood tree, with its black wood, blue flowers, and orange-yellow frond leaves, held particular cultural significance as a symbol of peace and equality, and its wood was said to be worth more than anything else in the galaxy. Perhaps no plant held greater spiritual importance than the soul tree, or birth tree, which was planted when an Ewok was born and believed to share a spiritual connection with that individual. The condition of the tree was thought to reflect the health or character of its associated Ewok, while after death, an Ewok's hood was attached to the trunk and their spirit was believed to take up residence within the tree. Some spirits were even said to remain behind to protect their soul trees, as was the case with Airfem Warwick. Because of their connection to the ancestors, soul trees were also considered sources of spiritual power by Ewok shamans, who used them as a medium through which they attempted to contact and draw upon the power of their ancestors, though these rituals were often kept secret. Other plants were entwined with Endor's folklore and inhabitants in stranger ways. The Trome tree was prized for its sap, an ingredient in Ewok potions, and was home to the Tromes, small humanoid figures with long gray beards. Harvesting the sap required removing branches, and repeated harvesting by Endorian creatures eventually left the tree with only a single branch remaining by the time of the Stranglethorn crisis. The Tromes believed removing the final branch would kill both their home and their tree itself, leading them to frighten away intruders in an effort to protect it. Finally, the mysterious wish plant was believed capable of producing almost any object someone wished for, although granting too many wishes severely weakened the plant. Tears shed upon it could, however, restore it to full health. Alongside these remarkable species, Endor was home to a broad variety of other flora, including the Aura Blossom, Baki tree, Blase tree, Brillabab tree, Blambush, Raventhorn plant, Stranglevine, Sunberry tree, Sunny Dewflower, Typha, and Yub tree, further contributing to the extraordinary ecological diversity of the forest moon.
Endor's fauna was as varied as its landscapes, ranging from familiar herd animals and forest predators to strange creatures found nowhere else in the galaxy. Many species had developed close relationships with the Ewoks, while others occupied the darker corners of the forest moon's ecosystem.
Blurgs. Blurgs Isle was a geographical location on Endor, and was said to be the birthplace of the Blurg, a two-legged reptilian species that inhabited the moon's plains as well as the planet Ryloth. On Endor, Blurgs formed part of the larger ecosystem of the open plains and were also important as prey for some of the moon's larger predators.
Boar-wolves. The boar-wolf, or bora, was one of Endor's more formidable predators. Growing as tall as 3 meters, these creatures possessed a humped back, hair, sharp teeth, 2 tusks, and large, hooked claws capable of tearing into trees. Their pungent, stringy meat was apparently unappealing, but their hunting abilities were formidable. Boar wolves possessed an excellent sense of smell and generally hunted in pairs, preying on creatures such as blurgs and Ewoks. They were particularly patient hunters, capable of cornering prey and then remaining concealed until an opportunity to strike presented itself. Boar wolves were sometimes semi-domesticated by the primitive Goraxes. A Gorax seeking a young boar wolf would locate a mother that had retreated into a cave to give birth, smash open the den, kill the mother, and take one of the pups as a pet.
Boardocs. The boardoc was a vaguely equine herbivore native to Endor's forests and one of the most important domesticated animals used by the Ewoks. Strong-backed, gentle-featured, and possessing long manes, boardocs served as mounts and beasts of burden, capable of carrying surprisingly large loads despite their relatively modest size. Their split hooves allowed them to negotiate the trees and difficult terrain of their forest home, while short, upward curving horns were present in young females and could grow considerably larger in adult males. There were 2 species, the lesser boardoc, which reached no more than 1.5 meters at the shoulder, and the rarer greater boardoc, which could grow to twice that size. Both were relatively intelligent and difficult to startle, although they became more skittish at night when Endor's nocturnal predators were active. Some boardocs displayed enough intelligence to cause scientists to reconsider the degree of sentience attributed to them. Boardocs formed strong bonds with their owners, and were often regarded as members of the family. Adults were fiercely protective of their young, and when domesticated, their masters as well. Their herd instinct could be so strong that adult males sometimes sacrificed themselves to defend the herd while others escaped. Young boardocs were commonly kept as pets and could develop lifelong attachments to their owners. Princess Nisa and Jerry Kintaka, for example, had a pet lesser boardoc named Baga.
Condor dragons. The condor dragon, or mantigrew, was a large flying reptavian predator that inhabited the cliffs and highlands running through Endor's forests. Its appearance was unmistakable. Green skin, bony ridges along its spine, 2 clawed legs, a long pointed beak, large fangs, piercing yellow eyes, and red leathery wings averaging 3 meters across. Their thick skin was reputedly difficult to injure. Condor dragons hunted by launching themselves from high buttresses and descending upon their prey in spiraling swoops, often screeching during the attack. They typically captured prey alive and carried it back to their eyries, which could be located in caves, canyons, or rocky crags. They were both nocturnal and diurnal hunters, and their prey included a variety of Endorian species, including rearing spiders. They sometimes snatched Ewoks from the backs of their pony mounts, although Ewoks' ponies were unpalatable to them. Some condor dragons also scavenged, and at least some could be trained, including one belonging to the Force-witch Charal.
Ewok ponies. Although horses were not native to Endor, earlier human scouting parties introduced them to the moon. The animals subsequently established themselves in the open woodlands and plains, where Ewok ponies could be found running wild, as well as being domesticated by the Ewoks. The Ewoks primarily used smaller gupas for riding and larger pulgas for carrying heavier loads. Their usefulness went beyond transportation. A mounted Ewok was actually somewhat safer from condor dragons, as the predators generally perceived horse and rider as a single creature and were less likely to attempt carrying away something of that combined size and weight.
Geejaws. Geejaws were inquisitive Reptavians native to Endor, distinguished by their remarkable variety of calls and ability to mimic sound. They possessed sharp beaks that they used in nest construction and laid several eggs at a time, with both parents caring for their helpless young. As common prey for tempters and other Endorian predators, they generally built their nests high above the ground or in other difficult-to-reach locations.
Griag. The Griag was a monstrous four-headed creature that lived within a large cave system on Endor. Long dismissed as a legend, it proved to be very real late in the Galactic Civil War, when the establishment of an Imperial bunker on the moon awakened it. The creature subsequently left a trail of devastation before being killed by the power of the Sunstar, which was itself destroyed in the process.
Hanadax. They were predatory primates indigenous to Endor. Beyond their classification as native predators, little is recorded about them.
Lantern birds. The lantern birds were large flying creatures distinguished by their incandescent tail feathers. They built shimmering nests high in the trees of Endor's forests, where they remained relatively secure from many of the predators below. Their luminous feathers had practical value to the Ewoks, who used them as ingredients in medicinal potions. The birds were also hunted and eaten by Duloks, while Ewoks regarded them as magical creatures.
Merriks. The Merrik was an unusual creature, combining features of an arachnid and a humanoid. Its body consisted of a reddish-brown, leathery lower section with 4 hind limbs used for locomotion and a humanoid torso above it. Its front limbs ended in claws that could be used for attacks. Merriks were generally solitary and not particularly aggressive in the wild, making them an unusual presence within Endor's ecosystem.
Quarfs. Quarfs were unusual shape-shifting creatures capable of flight and able to alter their physical appearance dramatically. They possessed excellent hearing and a prominent horn in the center of their forehead through which they could send signals to their masters. The horn remained visible even after a Quarf changed shape. Quarfs were strong enough to carry riders while flying and could follow complicated instructions. Despite these abilities, they were regarded as pets rather than truly independent or sentient companions, with no known examples of conscious decision-making.
Rearing spiders. The rearing spider, also known as the giant cave spider, was a large Endorian arachnid named for its distinctive method of intimidation and attack. When threatening or attacking, it would rear up on its hind legs and spread its remaining limbs around its prey. Unlike most spiders, it actively hunted rather than relying on webs. and it possessed only 6 legs rather than the usual 8. Rearing spiders inhabited desert caves and were also known to scavenge the remains of animals killed by Goraxes. They themselves were preyed upon by condor dragons, placing them somewhere in the middle of Endor's complex food chain.
Ruggers. Ruggers were small, fluffy herbivores, rodents native to Endor and considered cute by many species across the galaxy. They occupied different environments depending on their coloration. Yellow-furred varieties lived among the grassy plains, while greenish-white varieties inhabited the treetops. They fed primarily on nuts and berries, and hibernated during the colder winter seasons. Ruggers possessed strong incisors, adapted for cracking nuts, and suction-like pads on their feet that helped them maintain their grip while climbing. They were common prey for Yuzums and tempters. Outside Endor, domesticated Ruggers were kept as pets by wealthy residents of Coruscant, where they were bred with white fur.
Temptors. The Temptor was a predatory amphibian adapted to Endor's forests. Its most distinctive hunting adaptation was its long, furry, lure-like tongue, which it used to draw small animals, including rodents, birds, and Ruggers, towards its concealed jaw. The tip of the tongue contained pheromonal excretory pores and a nerve cluster that assisted this unusual method of hunting. Temptors had pale, fleshy skin coated in thick mucus, allowed them to slide into tight spaces before striking with remarkable speed. Although their bodies moved somewhat like that of a snake, they possessed wide splayed claws for anchoring themselves while hiding in places such as hollow logs and small caves. Multiple eyes gave them excellent vision. Temptors were not restricted to Endor. By 32 BBY, some had been introduced into Garjula the Hutt's pleasure garden on Tatooine, where they joined numerous other predators kept to attack unwary captives for the amusement of their owner and her guests.
Vorshaks. The Vorshak, informally known as the Bark Eater, was a furry quadrupedal herbivore that fed on the trees of Endor. Thick yellow fur, dark patches around its eyes, a bushy tail, and powerful front teeth distinguished the species. To the Ewoks, their habit of chewing through trees was decidedly pesky, but Vorshaks were not considered sentient. Despite their destructive feeding habits, Vorshaks could be domesticated. In 3 ABY, a Dulok tribe captured one and released it inside Bright Tree Village, where it began devastating the settlement. The Ewok shaman Logray ultimately used a love potion to tame the creature and save the village.
Several other species inhabited Endor as well. These included the Gorax, formidable creatures that occupied the moon's wilderness and were capable of interacting with and even semi-domesticating other predators, as well as a variety of smaller and less well-recorded animals that formed part of the forest moon's broader ecosystem. Together, these creatures contributed to a world in which even the most familiar forest, plain, or cave could conceal something dangerous, or something entirely unexpected.
And now a word from our sponsors.
Galaxy Tours, your passport to adventure. Why vacation on one world when you can see the galaxy? Leave the ordinary behind and experience the wonders of the galaxy with Galaxy Tours. The name travelers have trusted for generations of unforgettable adventures. From the golden sands of Tatooine to the enchanted forests of Endor, from the breathtaking cloudscapes of Bespin to the dazzling splendor of Imperial City, Galaxy Tours puts the galaxy's most extraordinary destinations within reach. Travel in comfort, travel in style. Whether you're planning a family holiday, a romantic getaway, or an unforgettable corporate retreat, Galaxy Tours has a vacation package for you. Our experienced travel specialists take care of the details, leaving you free to enjoy the journey. The galaxy is waiting. Where will you go next? Galaxy Tours, making the galaxy feel a little smaller, one vacation at a time.
Welcome aboard the Millennial Falcon. This is Christian.
And this is Jordan.
And we have crash landed ourselves on the forest moon of Endor. I guess there are worse places to land, but this is also not ideal.
It's okay. I have a trusty pony I can ride.
Yeah, we might be here for a while, so strap in.
Yeah. But before we get into that, we need money to repair this ship. So if you want to hop on the patreon.com/Star Lores and support this show by a $3 USD membership a month, you'll get access to all the bonus episodes. If you join the night tier, not only do you get bonus episodes, but you also get ad-free because those ads are annoying. You don't want to listen to them.
Except for the ones that we put in.
The ones that we put in, you can listen to.
Yeah.
But the other ones for all you free riders, I'm putting more in. And more obnoxious ones.
One every 5 minutes.
Yeah. Just kidding. Anyways, go reach out to us on social media. Follow us there. Subscribe on YouTube. All the links will be in the description of the show. And don't forget, I got a new podcast out called The Principalities and Powers. The link of that should also be in the show as well. You can go check it out. And beyond that, I don't have anything else. Christian, Endor.
Endor, what a beautiful place.
Yes.
What a scary place. What a weird place.
Smells like pine.
Yeah. Smells like California, oddly enough.
Yeah. California redwoods. Yeah.
Yeah, Endor. Interesting place. It has a lot of lore. It's probably one of the more lore-dense planets, but the lore is
odd.
questionable, yes. A lot of that has to do with the spin-off material. So Endor, interestingly enough, is where a lot of the first Star Wars spin-off material comes from. We have two live-action movies that spawned from this. We have an animated TV series, one of the first, comic book series, and
I'm sure there's like a novel somewhere. In there.
I'm sure. Yeah, so there's a lot of material to draw from, a lot of early Star Wars material, and a lot of fantasy / magical / child aimed at children kind of material that comes from Endor. Mm-hmm. But it's all canon, so we have to deal with it.
We must accept it.
Yeah.
If you are a Patreon member, we do have an episode where we reviewed the Ewok adventure, Caravan of Courage.
Yeah. And we will soon be doing...
And we touched on a lot of these same things. The very bizarre, weird, like a little, you feel like you get pulled out of Star Wars a little bit.
Definitely leans into the sci-fantasy instead of the sci-fi.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And doesn't even sometimes doesn't even feel like the same universe as Star Wars. It feels like a different universe. But
yes, I made comparisons to the other George Lucas property of Willow.
Yeah, right.
It feels like a fantasy setting, and in that, again, a lot of this lore is drawn from. So if it's starting to sound a little strange, that's because it is.
Yeah. It is it's actually strangely that moon that you saw in Return of the Jedi is very bizarre.
Yes.
It ends
you
up
don't
being,
even know the half of it.
Yeah.
And we will, like I said, we're stuck here for a little bit while we make these repairs. So we will be delving into, we haven't even scratched the surface yet. So
yeah,
get ready.
Absolutely.
A lot of magic and mysticism. And is it the Force or is it something else? Sentient mountains, godlike seasonal beings. Yeah, there's a lot to unpack. And we will.
Absolutely.
On that note, just talking about the planet itself, in real world context, yes, kind of as we joked at the beginning, a lot of the Endor scenes, if not all the Endor scenes, are shot in the American redwood forests, which are just these gigantic trees. Beautiful setting and scenery, but some real world context there. One thing to be said, and this is probably going to come up more so in future Ewok / Endor episodes, is the idea of magic around this world. And is it the Force? Isn't it the Force? Is it something else? It will come up a bit, but I just wanted to address that fact. We did address it in our Caravan of Courage episode. Endor itself, I don't know if this was intentional or not, but there are characters, and again, you have this kind of parallel with the witches of Dathomir. They aren't really witches. They're not really using magic, but they're using the Force. Although some elements of that also kind of delves into the weird of like,
Right.
you've never seen the Force do this before kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'm talking a lot with like the witches with that green kind of mist and being able to do things that you kind of haven't seen in other places. But the Force works in mysterious ways. So who's to say?
This is maybe a critique sometimes of the Force is there isn't enough rules around it. Like, what can it do? What can it not do?
Yeah.
You know, it seems every author,
All things are possible through the Force, Jordan.
Well, I guess.
Jot that down.
Yeah, I guess so. The Force can do like, a whole lot of things.
Yes.
But yeah.
Yeah, though that line, and it goes back to that line between magic and the Force. And this will come up is that there are other witch characters that will come up in this Endor series.
Yes.
And they are described as witches and using magic. And I don't know again if this was intentional or not, but Endor actually refers to a place in ancient Hebrew texts in the Bible.
Yeah. In the book of Samuel, I believe.
Yeah. And that there's a point where I believe it's King David.
No, Saul.
King Saul goes to consult this witch of Endor, who summons spirits and summons the spirit of Samuel, an ancient prophet.
Yeah, so Samuel was the prophet that anointed Saul initially, and then Samuel dies, and Saul's now older, and his throne is being threatened by David. And he goes to consult the witch of Endor, which in Hebrew society, according to the book of the law and Moses,
it's verboten.
This is very, very, you're not supposed to be speaking with the dead, necromancy, right? Like you're not supposed to be committing necromancy. It's a big no-no in Levitical laws. So for Saul to do this as the Hebrew king is
very verboten.
Yeah,
yes.
It's very bad. So then he goes to this place called Endor and speaks with a witch.
Yeah. So whether or not there's a tie there, I don't know. I don't know if the name of Endor was chosen for any significant reason.
It is odd, the witchery and magic that exists on Endor.
And that's kind of the connection I was drawing. But again, whether or not that was intentional or just happenstance, I can't really say. But I did want to highlight that as my fascination with.
Yeah, I did always kind of wonder if the name was just pulled out of the word in the Bible or
even come up with like Endor.
Excuse me.
Yeah. I guess in Hebrew it means fountain of door.
Okay.
So I don't know that there's any necessarily fountain or like deeper meaning in that, or someone just heard of it.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's odd. It's a very specific word, though. Like
and again, that association with magic is kind of what I'm.
Yeah, it is odd. It is a weird connection, for sure.
Well, again, whether or not that's just me or
maybe loose, but it's a weird synchronicity.
Yeah.
I don't know. Another sort of interesting maybe parallelism here. If anyone is familiar with the Enderverse, like the Ender's Games books. The quartet written by Orson Scott Card, you'll know that in the second book, Speaker for the Dead, there is a species that is introduced called the Pequeninos. Now the Pequeninos are like kind of this primitive race of people. They're short.
Ursine by chance?
They are Ursine. They're colloquially called piggies in the like they are described as like having pig snouts and stuff.
Okay.
But they have like this very shamanistic tribal religion, but they actually all mostly get converted to Catholicism in the book, which is kind of funny. Some of that, like one of them in the book even becomes like a priest.
Is that allowed?
Yeah, I don't know. But what's interesting is, again, you have this kind of small, primitive midget race, and then the whole planet of Lusitania, I believe is what it was called in the book. It's very heavily forested. Now, the only difference is there's like no predators on Lusitania, and it actually has very little life other than the trees and the Pequeninos and this disease that plays a big part in the rest of the story. However, I just thought it there's a very Ewok feeling to the Pequaninos. Like the Pequaninos are a lot more complex. Their society and the mechanisms that they work under is a lot more sophisticated and thought out than I think the Ewoks are. But there is, so it's funny because they're very integrated into the forest, the Pequaninos. And there are some plains on Lusitania, if I remember correctly in the book. But one of the things that happens is that like when a Pequanino dies, it's kind of, they have this brutal death, and another Pequanino like kills them, but it's all part of this ritual. It's like they're all in on it, even the one getting killed, and they're consenting to this, and they get like their chest ripped open or their back, I can't remember, and out of them grows like a tree shrub.
Oh.
and then they turn into a tree.
Yeah.
So the Pequanino turns into a tree. So you have all these forests that are actually Pequanino graveyards.
Right.
But they don't see it as death. They see it as part of their new life. And actually what happens in the Endor world is that the Pequanino can now communicate like telepathically to people if they like go and touch the tree. I can't remember exactly how the mechanism works, but the Pequanino is actually still alive in the tree.
Right. It's almost like a metamorphosis of like a caterpillar to
Correct.
a butterfly.
Yeah.
Which actually, interesting note, kind of say sidewind here is that caterpillar turns to soup, and it's not totally understood that like the butterfly is almost like a distinct creature. It's not that it turns into.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
but it does retain some of the memories of the caterpillar, which is.
Oh yeah.
It's a very
it's a mind bender there.
Rabbit hole. But yeah, sorry, go on.
Yeah. Anyways, but there is like this, again, there's just some of those themes, like small primitive race of people. They're in like a forest planet. The forest is like part of how they live. Their cities are in the forest, their towns are in the forest, that kind of thing. Right. But the Pequaninos, for the Pequaninos, the forest is like sacred, right? Because that's literally their people. Yeah. And like there's like the scenes where the forests are getting cut down or burned down, and the Pequaninos are like
losing their minds.
Absolutely like apoplectic about it, right? Yeah. Like they're traumatized that these forests are burning down, right? Like, yeah. It's actually very unique and interesting, like story mechanics. If you read the book, I think it's a Speaker for the Dead is probably, the next book is pretty good too, but those two books are like really good. They're just absolutely excellent. 10 out of 10. Yeah.
Stay tuned for our Ender's Game.
Yeah, the Ender's Game pod. Anyways, if anyone is familiar with Ender's Game, you might see some of those like
parallels,
interesting parallels,
especially with things like the spirit tree and the Ewoks.
Yeah,
where their soul is to inhabit the tree that they kind of are paired with when they're born. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there definitely could be.
I don't know if. So I believe the Ender Game books came out mid 80s. Speaker for the Dead might have came out near the end of the 80s, maybe early 90s. So certainly Ewoks, they would have been aware of Ewoks, Star Wars.
The show.
Yeah, Star Wars would have been out.
Yeah.
But again, I doubt I kind of doubt Orson Scott Card is watching.
Maybe he watched Ewoks as a kid and he's like, holy smokes. That's
he was an adult when that came out.
Wow. Is he that old? I thought he was younger.
He's like George Lucas's age.
Okay.
Yeah. No.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah. I don't know if there was like some borrowing or like anything like that.
But to be fair, I think the whole idea of like sprites and tree spirits and stuff isn't wholly unique to either storyteller. So it just could be an overlapping of mythology, let's say, where forest spirits are often a thing. Yeah. Especially if you want like a race that like venerates the forest. On that note, though, it is interesting to see that the planet of Endor is also more than just the trees. That's something that came up during our review episode too, is that like there are actually other landscapes on the planet.
Right. Yeah.
Even though it's called the Forest Moon, and yes, the forest makes up a majority of the biosphere. It still has other elements. It has lakes, it has mountains, it has plains.
Yeah. Well, as we read here, has volcanoes, lots of volcanoes.
Yeah. And again, that's all relative, right? On the scale of a planet, or in this case, a moon. That's another thing that we should probably remark, is that Endor is a moon,
right,
of the gas giant Endor. So that's also something that often gets missed. But yeah, and I think we've mentioned this in previous episodes as well, is that there is space in Star Wars to have more than one biome on a planet, certainly.
Yeah.
So it's not wholly unique. And it makes the planet interesting. You can have more than just the ice world and the desert world and the forest world, right? Another thing I just wanted to touch on too, since we went over all the fauna of the planet as well, we are going to do another episode on all the sentient species. There are a number of sentient species that we didn't even touch on here. More than just the Ewoks as well, just as a preview. And also in terms of the animal species, one interesting note is that because of the low budgetness, I guess, of the Ewok movie, they used a lot of real world animals. So that's where you get things like the ponies, Ewok ponies. They used, for those who are unfamiliar with the material, they used a real horse in the show, and they had like ferrets and like
and cats,
very identifiable, cute. Like they didn't even try to make them alien species, you know?
Yeah, which is again another thing that pulls you out of the Star Wars, because you're used to there is nothing terrestrial like Earth like that.
Yeah,
in terms
I've
of
never seen a horse
other than humans. Right.
I've never seen a horse in Star Wars. Even like the new Star Wars, like the Last Jedi had like pseudo horses, right? Or whatever the last Star Wars film too.
Yeah.
Anyways, they have all these pseudo horses, but not real horses, and Ewoks couldn't even do that. So.
But they made horses canon for all of Star Wars now.
They're everywhere. So you got to deal with the fallout. That's why you got to be careful what to do with your mythos.
Yeah, exactly. You have to accept it.
Yeah. But like we said, a lot of this lore comes from, and the thing is, like I said, there's just so much of it because it came from like a whole kids television series, right? So now all those elements have to be brought in. All those feature length movies, all those elements have to be brought in. So it's going to be an interesing ride while we're here.
Yeah. And if you go and watch those Ewok adventure films, you could, I could really see someone maybe doing fan fiction, an AI short film or something of like a good horror on
Endor,
yes. Like a good proper horror. I think you could totally do it. The kind of creatures are like the dark bottom wood of the forest wood, it's. Yeah, there's some potential there.
The boar-wolf.
The very strange mystical element of the planet, right? Yeah. Like there's a lot of mystery to it. So I don't know. You could do some fun thing. It's already crazy. So you may as well
embrace it.
Yeah. May as well just go all the way.
Genre bend with it.
Yeah, exactly. So if anyone wants to write a sweet horror, then do it. Yeah. All right. Other than that, I think that's all I got. Christian, anything else? Any mentions? Did you have a favorite creature slothing around the bottom of the forest there?
Not
a blurg.
No, blurgs appear also on other planets too. So not unique. And I actually never really cared for blurgs, to be honest. I don't really like their aesthetic.
Yeah.
No, I never really cared for Endor. I mentioned this as well, like. As if people are not familiar, Endor was supposed to be Kashyyyk for the films. Yeah. And I would have preferred that. I love Wookiees. And I just see Ewoks as knockoff Wookiees, so it's very hard.
Yeah, cheap Wookiees. Yeah.
It's very hard for me to but if anything, I guess I like the Ewoks the most of the species.
I'd have to read about if there was any books or anything that really covered Kashyyyk, but I know like the KOTOR game did a great job of like developing a lot more of the lore and like
Wookiee culture.
Wookiee culture and like the depths, like how it's this mysterious place that like almost no one goes down to. I thought that was kind of like an awesome story element.
Funny enough, Kashyyyk is featured in the Christmas special.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that don't make sense here.
Yeah.
But
But anyways, forest planets. Would you go to a forest planet list? No.
There's a lot of dangerous things too for childhood setting. But we're here for a while, like I said. So we got lots still to cover on this in future episodes.
Absolutely. All right, don't forget to rate and review the show if you liked it. And if you didn't like it, well, keep that to yourself, please. Otherwise, go check us out. All our social media links will be in the description of the episode. You can support us, patreon.com/StarLords. And don't forget to go subscribe on YouTube. All right, guys, we'll see you next time.